Hi friends, welcome to Parent Cafe Live. Today our video is gonna be talking about managing expectations of our kids. Actually managing our expectations of our kids. So a lot of times I'm really guilty of being frustrated, right? And I'm frustrated because I'm like, why did I have to repeat myself again? Oh yeah, he's 5. Right? Doesn't change my frustration level, but if I keep reminding myself and manage my expectations better, I won't get so frustrated. So there's some really great resources out there. So many people are developing stuff on early childhood, adolescent development, and just million bazillion resources for us to learn about our kids and how to teach them to better learn, how to communicate with them. We've talked about chore lists that are age appropriate. That helps manage our expectations. We've talked about why they need routines, and we've talked about like visual routines and helping that. So if we find ways to help our children, we're better managing our expectations, and we're managing their expectations because we've clearly defined, we've practiced, we've worked with them on this. Our last video on tech use, that's another thing, like we're managing expectations, and sometimes we need to know like what's going on in their brains in order to do that. So a lot of us forget that our teenagers aren't adults. They sure want to be, and they sure try to front it a lot, but they're not. Their brains just aren't going to work like that. I've said it a lot that our brains aren't fully developed until we're 27. Okay, so there's some learning curve there. I still think humans can learn to be respectful, to communicate, do all sorts of things, and take a few timeouts and process so that they can speak with intention and they can describe their wants and needs and they can advocate for themselves. And it still doesn't change the emotions. It still doesn't change, that they maybe have limited knowledge on things, but it is going to do them a lot of good to have those skills as they navigate that and they acquire more skills. Like, just because our brains aren't developed by 27 doesn't mean we're out on our own earlier, right? So, Parenting Montana is a great resource, parentingmontana.org. So we have lots of rack cards and resources here, but you can go straight online and everything's on there. And so I'm just going to kind of go through some of those today because I really want people to start using these resources. If you are, a foster parent and you're receiving, I don't know, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-month-old, and your kids are grown, it's been a while since you've engaged in that age group, and there's so many different ones. It's hard, and sometimes kids that are in foster care are like stunted a little bit. They, because of trauma and the effects that has on the brain, or, sometimes, our own kids have the same things, or we have learning disabilities, or we have cognitive disabilities. Some kids are more sheltered than others. I mean, there's all these different factors in play, right? But there is sort of this median baseline for what kids should kind of look like. I mean, when you go in for well checks, there's milestones they're wanting your kids to hit, right? From the time they're little. And then I think now that my son's like 6, it's like every year he should still have a well check, right? Because they're just checking indicators and there's things they're looking for just to make sure there's nothing that's going on. Because we're humans, like our bodies are not like pristine, right? There's things that can happen. But understanding and creating like a healthy development environment for our kids' brains is really important. Part of that is managing those expectations. Because if we're constantly ragging on them because we think they should be up here and they're only here, and this is probably where they should be, can you imagine what that's doing for their self-esteem? And knowing where your kid's at, if you're a teacher or a daycare provider, I mean, you can have all the schooling you want, and we all have expectations of kids, and sometimes they're just not going to deliver on those expectations. So whatever reason that is for, and what's ever causing the behaviors that are coming out, we need to know that there's a reason, and it's usually not us. And we need to be okay with that, because we should be up here. We should be dealing with stuff a little bit better than they are. And no matter how much education or knowledge you have on it, when you're in the moment of frustration or anger or all the above, it's hard to remember. So I feel like the more you check yourself and check where your kids are at, like, why does my kid keep doing this? Like, if you are frustrated, look into it. So to these resources. So they have them broken down by age. So they have ages 0 to 4, 5 to 10, 11 to 14, and 15 to 19. So they don't go beyond 19. But you will find that a lot of people between 19 and 27, you're going to find some variance there, but some of them are still going to fall into that 15 to 19. So 0 to 4, this is really cool. Things they want you to look at is confidence. So simply means a belief in self. So what can we do to build confidence in kids? So if we have that safety and security building, they're going to be confident. They're going to be learning practical, problem-solving skills. They're going to learn that they're safe and they can go out and explore and try things, but we keep setting like these models for them to follow, and then they're going to push buttons and push out a little bit, but they keep coming back to check in. Like, if we create that confidence and sense of security, that's huge. So they break it down into how to do that with infants, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, and 4-year-olds. And so it's really about like letting them explore and at what level you should do that at. The next thing is listening. Who wants our kids to listen? There's like whole books written on that, I'm still wondering. My parents always used to say I had selective hearing, and I think that's just like something kids have. I don't know. Like, we tone people out when we don't want to hear it, right? So how do we support our children? So with listening skills, we teach them how to have healthy relationships and how to do that give and take of things, right? Listening is for like cognition and retention and comprehension. If they're listening, they're able to learn. Big. And again, breaks it down. So those are some key things they want ages 0 through 4. So they break it down. Confidence and listening, like, that's pretty basic, right? But it makes sense. And the more you know about like developmental milestones and, just brain development in general for those age groups, you're like, oh, that does hit all the points. And like listening, so developing like their language skills and communication skills, like that all falls in there. And those are big things we want them. Their brains are absorbing all of that information from 0 to 3. It's like the most critical time for vocabulary and communication skills. So listening is a huge part of that. So isn't that amazing? I love it. Super fun, not too hard. Ages 5 to 10, confidence again. So again, how you can do that. Learning to manage stress. So with listening and confidence, there is some of that social emotional skill building. And then as kids get a little bit bigger, like starting school and having work to do and having to like sit still and follow instructions, not just for mom and dad, that is stressful, right? So building that ability is really cool. Reading and routines. I think routines could be on everything, but they are able to put a little bit more. So it's not like just simple tasks of like brushing their teeth and putting clothes on. Like, there's full routines through their day to make their day functional, right? So when they're at school, if they're struggling with those routines, this is a good time to help them manage that and manage the stress that comes with it and build confidence in their ability. Isn't that cool how it all builds on each other? I really love this. And reading, it's so important. I think you should start reading to your kid in utero because you need to start training yourself for story time every night. Because no matter how tired you are, once you start story time, it's like, I don't know, it's like magic. Your kid loves it. They love it. And you're developing that like culture of reading, that love for books. You're teaching them how to properly use a book. It's like all these things that they need to know before kindergarten, right? Okay, on to the next card. So 11 to 14, whew, it's a dandy of an age. Really hard. So after we've built confidence, reading skills, managing stress, all of these things should start to build on each other. Whew, homework. It is really cool to have good learning habits. So when you go to college now, there's like a 101 course on how to do college because a lot of people don't know how you should take notes. They don't know how you should set up a study time. Routines. So we learned how to do routines before. Like there's all these habits that we need to create to be successful in life, and homework is one of them. I know for a fact that my grades could have been a lot better because I wasn't dumb. I got A's in college when I went as a grown-up, but I didn't get a whole lot of A's in high school because I didn't have good work habits for homework. I got A's in the classes I really liked to do because I always had projects and I got that stuff done and I wanted to do that. But on the courses that weren't my favorite or I struggled with, like I skimmed by. I didn't do the work I should have been doing. And I had to learn the hard way how to make myself get good grades because of the commitment to time I had to do. And I learned what worked for me. If we learn early, like middle school, because we'll have homework, but there's a lot more check-ins and stuff with parents and at the elementary level. But once we're in middle school, higher grade school, middle school, we become a lot more independent in our learning. There's more expectations of us. And I mean, that's just part of growing up, right? So if we help our kids and understand that their teachers are giving up the reins a little bit, we have to be helpful and responsible. And we have to help manage those expectations and teach them how to best navigate that. So homework's big for success. I mean, who wants to be stressed out because you just keep not doing your homework? I'm telling you, it was awful. But I didn't have the foresight to be like, oh, maybe I should just do my homework. Yeah, because I don't know. Developmentally, I wasn't there. So if we help build these habits, kids will be like, oh. And then as you get older, you start to like put all the pieces together. But if it's a habit, you're just like, well, this is what I do. It's still good to teach why, right? But it doesn't always sink in. But over time, it will. And then your kids will be like, oh, I'm going to do this because I want to, because I don't like being stressed. I like getting A's. I think learning's fun. I'm going to make my own flashcards, all stuff I kind of wish I was like in high school because I was that way in college. I was a non-traditional student and I'd been growing up for a little while before I started college, which made a huge difference for me. But not everybody has that. Okay, 11 to 14, the next thing is chores. So chores, hopefully by 11, 14, you don't have like this reward chart system that you have to keep track of and remind every day because you've built that in. But they definitely, if you haven't done chores yet, they need chores by then. They are becoming more independent. They have the ability to do a lot more chores and help around the house at a different level. Okay, we want our kids to have confidence. And so by making them a helper in our home, we do that and they get to be a contributor. But as they get older, they need to do that. They need to be a productive citizen in your community. And if that community is just at home right now, like that's fine. But we want like them to do things and continue to learn like good work ethic and continue to learn to have pride in the work they do, and to, pride in their family and their home. And I don't know, I just feel like it makes it easier for a family to like work and do things together. One of the biggest strains in, I feel, as a mom is just when you feel like nobody's helping you. And I know my husband's felt like that too. Because when everything falls on you in a certain area, it's overwhelming and it gets daunting and you don't want to have to ask for help all the time. So don't skip out on chores. Okay, so the next little dandy, ages 15 to 19. So it says to go back into stress. So stress levels are going to get higher in high school, right? And as they graduate, oh my gosh. And at this age, like, we don't know that there's so much more to life after high school, right? Like, high school is your world. Like, ugh. I don't miss those years of my life at all. There is just a lot of things that go on, and we have to model healthy things. So like, if you as an adult go in and say, I'm feeling sad or depressed, or I just don't have the energy, or I feel stressed all the time, those all kind of go together. Are you sleeping? Are you eating right? Are you exercising? I don't know. I didn't know how to do all those things. I didn't know that, like, I needed to pay attention to my body. Like, you'd think that would be common sense, but it apparently wasn't for me, and it's not for other kids. So we have to set this example in our homes to have like good food, to be getting sleep. And I know, like, my parents tried to get me into bed by a certain time, and I was a total night owl, and I would just stay awake even though I wasn't supposed to. And I paid for it every single day. And I think part of that is because, like, there wasn't the buy-in or compliance from my perspective. So finding unique and creative ways to help building this, and like getting your kids to understand where they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go to bed because I got this test tomorrow. And I don't know. There's a lot of things I wish I had known, and I hope to help my kid with that information and skills, because I think I've seen it in other kids, and I don't know, it's totally different. Like, you see this two like 17-year-old juniors, and there's some that are really driven and have like their priorities like straight. I'm like, ooh, you're a grown up. And then you have some that just are aloof and not, and it's not that they're not grown up any more than the other. Just some have learned better habits than others, and seeing the impact that has on their successes. And right now it's short term, they're still young adults. It's still pretty significant in that like time frame. So I want to do those things for my kid. So stress, and there's all these little tips on these cards. I'm not going to go through them all. The next thing is discipline for skill building. Like, whenever I like things, I have put forth effort to learning more. And as a grown-up, I do that with my job all the time. And I'm like, ooh, professional development, I like it. So I'm learning for the sake of learning. There's no way I would have done that in high school, except for the few things I really did enjoy. Like theater stuff, and I love like sewing and building things and making things. Like, that was the things I enjoyed doing. And for theater, it was like stage stuff, and I liked building the costumes, and I loved the stress and the chaos and being able to like plan all of that out. Like, that's kind of stuff I still like today, is like project management stuff and building things and creating things. And so finding this good balance as an adult is so much easier because I'm not stuck in a school all day long. So I get to fill more of my strengths, And so sometimes that's not what we have, right? Sometimes we have to deal with some stuff that aren't our strengths, and a little more heavily for others, because of the way academics are lined up and things. But as a grown-up, I could do all of those things because I put forth the extra effort and time, and it really wasn't that much once I had good habits. So, and learned how I learn, because I use that to my advantage in classes and in lectures and things. So, They have some stuff about motivation for misbehavior. So that's really interesting to understand. Model the skills you want them to have. Focus on decision making. We really need good problem solving, critical thinkers. And helping your kids and walk through that is going to be really important. Like, I was super impulsive and made decisions, and I did the best I could. But looking back, I wish I'd had some more of those skills. And I know my parents wanted me to, but they didn't have the ability to, give me those tools. Partially probably because they didn't understand how my brain worked. My parents were young parents. It's not like they, had years under their belt and were all knowing and wise. They did the best they could. It's not like they abandoned me or anything to my own devices, but they couldn't understand like why my brain worked the way it did. And that's because I was a teenager, right? And and I was self-centered and selfish, and I only saw my own emotions. And then I left home, and then I realized, oh goodness, I had it pretty easy. It's managing expectations, managing our expectations of the parent, and helping build good skills. Oh, these cards are so cool, you guys. And I know the website's got a lot more, and you can like fill in what you're looking for, and it'll pull up like a, you'll fill out like their search information, and then it'll pull up what you're looking for. The next thing, parenting process for your child's success. A 5-step process. Ooh, I love steps. Okay, guys, I'm a total nerd, and it's okay. 5-step process. Step 1, get input. Oh, we talked about that. Like, your kids just comply so much more when they have input and buy-in. Teach. We have to teach so much more than I ever thought imaginable as a parent. Like, because we're humans and we're not born with all the same things that, like, I don't know, like, we have primal instincts just like all other animals, but like we take a lot longer to develop and grow. And that's because we have this ability to learn, and our brains are so awesome, and we don't even know everything about them yet. So use that to your advantage and teach your kids what you need them to know. 3, practice. Ooh, we've talked about this, practicing. We have to do when they're older too. Supporting them. Sometimes that's reteaching, and that's okay. We can use this and stay calm and help guide them and manage their big emotions, their big feelings, and their big stresses. And the more we're there and they build that confidence and they're confident in their relationship with us, they will come to us, and we get to teach them in a safe environment. Like, can you think of how many tangents we could go on where it would be terrifying for your kids to only learn from other kids and their peers? I don't want that. I don't want that for my kid. I know that he needs to learn certain things, social cues and stuff, but there's just some topics in life that I would prefer to be the one to give him a generalized education on and teach him how to be respectful and teach him how to think smart. Like, if you're going to make grown-up decisions, you have to understand the grown-up consequences. And if you're still going to make those decisions, then this is my teaching moment to let you suffer with your consequences. Like, there's just, I want to manage that. I want him to know, like, this is how I expect you to behave. And if you don't, this is what's going to happen. Just like with that tech use agreement, if we all know and we've come into agreement with what things should look like, and we fail to do that, there's consequences. Okay. Recognize your child's efforts and success. We've talked about this too. We want to celebrate things, right? We need to let our kids know that they're doing a good job and help them build that self-awareness and self-confidence and be proud of themselves. Okay. Social emotional development. This is another card. So, big, fun, just topic in general, and it goes on through all the ages. And if you read this, you'll see where that fits in the different age level cards and the way they kind of prioritize things. Ooh, healthy risk taking. So this is part of that building confidence, part of building critical thinking skills and habits, and understanding what your resources are, where you can go for help, who's there. Hopefully they're coming to you. But if they're not, you you want to find them like solid resources that you trust. That's going to be really good. And the more we allow our kids to explore an adventure appropriately through their ages and their developmental level, they are going to take appropriate risks. They're not going to act on impulse. They're going to like use some of that logic, and it's a little harder to, get to when you're younger, but we have practiced it. We have taught it, practiced it. We have re-practiced it. We have retaught it over and over and over again, and they start to develop like this amazing critical thinking skills, and they're going to be more successful, and we're going to trust them more, and we're going to, I don't know, still be sad that they're growing up, but less afraid of how they're making decisions when they're not around us. And we want to monitor. So we talked about monitoring tech use. We have to monitor everything our kids are doing. We need to monitor their homework. We need to monitor their grades. We shouldn't be surprised if our kid shows up with an F on a report card. Like, that shouldn't be the first time we see a struggle, right? We had time to interject and help our kids. They are kids. Even though there's expectations, some of them just don't get certain things. Some of them need extra support and don't know how to ask for it. And that turns into frustration and a lack of caring. Like, there's all these cyclic things that can happen. But we are the parent. It is our job to be involved in all aspects of our child's life. And if we want them to be successful in all those aspects, there's some parts that we have to play still. That's my personal true belief, and I do stand by it 100%. Not that I do it perfectly, nor will I ever, because I am a human and I don't expect anybody else to do. But if we're trying and we're being there for our kids, they just have a better chance, being successful. And success looks like a lot of different things, but we want them to be happy and be productive citizens and contribute to society as a whole in a positive way, right? They don't have to be rocket scientists to be successful. There's so many versions of success. But are they happy and content with life? And do they have good relationships, healthy relationships in personal and professional lives? Okay. The next card I have is on intentional communication. So we have to really practice this. We have to practice it so we can role model it, and we're teaching our kids because they're listening to us, and they're listening to us with all their senses, okay? So really fun, useful tool. Oh, this one. So I don't know if you guys know this, but Alliance for Youth is a prevention organization, and we do a lot with prevention of substance use, specifically with adolescents, okay? So this card's awesome. Underage drinking. There is such a perception of harm that is skewed. It is way lower than it should be. And speaking from experience, I was not smart as a teenager in using alcohol as a way to have fun, to bury feelings, to get over awkwardnesses, all the things that kids think alcohol is this right to partake in. I think if kids understand more about what's going on and what that level of harm can be, instead of you just can't do it, you are going to have more compliance and understanding. I really think a lot of kids just need to be educated on things, and we have to start at a young age creating that relationship of trust and communication with our kids, or this card is going to be useless to you. It is terrifying how many situations kids get themselves into when drinking that are not positive. There's a lot of parents that harmlessly let their kids drink, and that has repercussions on their kids and kids that their kids hang out with. You just really need to be aware and educated and have open communication with your kids about that. So I hope you will all go check out parentingmontana.org. Lots of cool resources. If you're ever in our building, please check these out. We have them all over Great Falls as well. And if you happen to be seeing this and you work somewhere where you think these cards would be useful, please reach out to me. That's nzimmerman@allianceforyouth.org is my email. And we're happy to share anything we can. If you have questions about any of this stuff, please feel free to email me or message me through YouTube. So I hope you guys all enjoyed the video today. I hope you like and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you can get notifications of new video uploads. And I really hope that you continue to have a nice summer. Stay cool out there, guys. And I'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks.